Welcome to Dairy Delivery by the Dairy Star, World Dairy Expo Special Edition. On today's episode, we take a trip down the road to Madison as we share conversations on the first episode of a three-part series about this week's World Dairy Expo. On today's special episode, we speak with the Associate Judge for this year's International Milking Shorthorn Show, Josh Fairbanks. We also catch up with Kathleen O'Keefe, the voice behind ExpoTV's broadcast of this year's International Holstein Show, the first ever commentator for the annual event. And finally, we wrap up today's episode with Wisconsin FFA State President, Amalia Draxler. This is Dairy Delivery. All dairy, all the time. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, Wilbur Ellis. As a dairy producer, you're always looking for ways to improve your herd health and productivity. That's where Empower MX comes in. Empower MX is a yeast solution developed specifically to support consistent intakes, rumen health, and feed efficiency. What makes it different is the consistent performance you will see week after week. Producers across the country are using Improve MX to get more out of their feed and help their cows perform at their best. If you're ready to give your herd an edge, talk to your nutritionist about Improve MX, because when your cows thrive, your dairy does too. I'm Dan Walker, your reporter with the Dairy Star, bringing you the latest in the dairy industry, including hearing from farmers from across the Midwest and beyond. And today, it's just me in the first episode of our World Dairy Expo Special Edition. You can hear from Michelle on Friday as we release the second part of our three-part series. And then next Monday, October 6th, the two of us will be back together recapping the week that was at World Dairy Expo. So you'll get a three-part mini-series almost as we take on World Dairy Expo this year. This year is the 58th World Dairy Expo. Last year I got hired in early September. So one of the first things I got to do was go down to Expo and kind of experience that trade show part of it. And kind of all of it all together. I had never been there for FFA or anything like that in high school. And so this was just a new opportunity for me to actually check out everything that was going on down there. And it was really impressive just to see all the different technology and different vendors and stuff that were set up there. Automation's been something that I've been kind of interested in since I've kind of returned back to the area and figured out kind of what works for other people and what works for other things. So seeing the different robotic units that they have kind of set up around and just the different technology that's emerged has been crazy to see. And obviously that's just kind of something within today's society of robotics and that newer technology and how it can be changed and adapted and used for other uses. Takes me back to when I was working in North Carolina. We had to shut down our gym for the school, the university I was working at, in one day because the local community had to have a robotics competition. And I had to go in because I was working a baseball game that day or something. And I walked by the gym and just saw the stands were just packed with kids who were basically cheering on. Now, if you're older like me, you remember there was an old show called BattleBots where these robots would go fight each other and whichever robot was left standing at the end was the winner. It was basically that, but it was like middle schoolers who had engineered these things. And just seeing the stuff that's going on with the technology within what they're being taught, like obviously that's completely different than what I was being taught when I was in middle school, or at least classes that I had. Maybe it was being taught, I just didn't pick up on it. But seeing how that was taught there and just knowing that those kids can maybe take those lessons they're learning at the middle school now, maybe not even middle school level, or take those lessons that they're learning now and be able to change and adapt them to continue to further not just the dairy industry, but the evolving technology is always cool. And seeing what they had last year at Expo, knowing what some of the capabilities are of young people coming up, and just I'm excited for the future. And that's something that is always interesting at Expo, to be able to see kind of where the industry is going and what people have in store to continue to advance and just increase efficiency among farms. Along with seeing all the new technology and different things that are going to be available, on the grounds and different pieces of equipment, one of the things I'm looking forward to is obviously seeing all the farmers that we've worked with in the past, meeting new people, making those new connections. Like that's always really fun. But when you get the break from standing at the trade show for most of the day or whatever, do you want to go get a bite to eat? I think something I'm looking forward to is there was one section down there on the grounds. I can't remember where it was for sure. But it had like 6 or 7 food trucks and they were all set up. And as you would expect, a lot of them were serving dairy products. One of them especially had a cheese curd basket that was available. What piqued my interest with that, obviously there's going to be a couple different trucks down there that are selling cheese curds, but this one had a jalapeno ranch dipping sauce. But even if I can't find that same truck this year with that jalapeno ranch, I mean, it's cheese curds. It's hard to go wrong with any sort of cheese curd. As you're around World Dairy Expo, make sure you come see us at the trade show. Dairy Star will have a booth set up, so that way you can come by, visit with us. We can talk to you and get to know you guys. If you're within our readership area and you're running an active dairy farm and you're not getting the Dairy Star, we'll have requesters for you to fill out, so that way you can get the free Dairy Star newspaper for your farm, so you guys continue to read up on all dairy all the time, as our tagline is, and that way you guys can continue to see the different things that we're doing and trying to tell stories with farmers and everything that comes with that, and just get to know us a little bit and help us get to know you. All right, with all that, let's start getting into today's episode. We start today's episode with Josh Fairbanks. Josh is the associate judge for the International Milking Shorthorn Show this year at World Dairy Expo. After working with the show strings at Butler View Farm in Golden Oaks in Illinois, Fairbanks found a love for show cattle, and he's using that passion to find himself on the colored shavings for tomorrow's International Milking Shorthorn Show. I'm here with Josh Fairbanks, the associate judge for the International Milking Shorthorn Show at this year's World Dairy Expo. Josh, thanks for taking time to hop on a call with me today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to judging this year at World Dairy Expo. Will be my first time on the colored shavings, so pretty exciting moment for me.
Definitely, for sure. So right away, before we get started here, could you tell me a little bit about your background in dairy?
Yeah, so my parents actually didn't milk cows, but I grew up right down the road from my Uncle Doug Fairbanks here in eastern Iowa. I spent a lot of my childhood there, kind of got involved into 4-H, did a lot of showing locally, got hooked up with a few people. Mark Fisher from Iowa used to take me around to some shows, and then I got hooked up with Rick Thompson, RT from Southwest Wisconsin. Kind of started to go to more shows and started doing some fitting on my own, and that's kind of where it sparked my interest for the, showing. And I guess back then I didn't know if I really wanted to do much judging or anything like that, but eventually I took a job at Butler View Farm, working with, their show string and going to shows. And then from there, I went to Golden Oaks Farm and kind of managed their show string there as well for a few years before finally returning home. I guess being at a couple of those placings and getting, just being around and getting, some good contacts is kind of how I got started, doing some judging and stuff like that. So.
For sure. So how did you find out that you were selected to be the associate judge at World Dairy Expo?
First, they figure out who their official judge is, and then after that, Michael Meyer and I are fairly good friends, and he's got to put 3 names down and kind of numerical order on how he would like his associates to, how he would like, his first, second, third choice. And anyway, I was his first choice, and they have a meeting about it and World Dairy Expo, and then they approved it, and it was a pretty cool phone call, I guess, when I finally heard the news. So
I'm sure. What was that like for you? What were you feeling when they told you were going to be on the colored shavings? Obviously, like you said, you got a little bit of history with genetics and judging and stuff, and then to be at that level, how's that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost unreal a little bit. I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do. It's just kind of when or, how you get there and whatnot. And I don't know, it's a really good feeling, I guess. And it's quite the honor for me. So I'm pretty excited about it. So
yeah, I'd say you work your whole life in dairy and in genetics and stuff like that, and to be able to have this chance, I'm sure, is an incredible opportunity. What's your role as the associate judge during the competition? Now, coming from me, I didn't get into showing cattle or anything, and this might be a little more elementary for some other people, but what's the role of the associate judge during this show?
Yeah, so basically, Michael's the official, and, but it's kind of, at these bigger national shows and stuff like that, I feel like it's a good thing for, there to be kind of 2 minds or 2 sets of eyes looking, discussing. When you get in some of those big classes, it's really hard to see everything, and everyone's got their differences of opinions and whatnot. So it's just, I think it's just, good for us to talk through it. I guess I've never really been out there in the colored shaving, so, just kind of talking through some of that stuff and, it's just from my judging experiences, when you get into those larger classes, it's kind of nice to have someone to help you get through them and talk through them. Why do you think this? Why do I think that? Type of stuff. And basically I'm there to help, or I guess is what I'm getting at. So
Yep, I got you. So you said you worked with Mike in the past, and he put you down as one of his top choices. What's your relationship like with Michael, and what's it like to have that kind of teamwork while you guys are on the shavings? Obviously, it's important to have that relationship, to be able to bounce back ideas back and forth off each other. So can you just tell me a little bit about what you and Mike's relationship is like?
yeah, I know we just kind of met through mutual friends, and I know Michael for quite a while. I can't even tell you how many years, but we've done business together. As far as he's purchased cattle from me and vice versa, and we talk often. We both I would say both of our farms. I work for my uncle, and he milks cows with his family too. And I would say we're more commercial herds. Like we milk just shy of 400. Michael maybe milks a few more than that. So I would say how we see cattle and stuff like that are very in check. And we talk a lot about not just showing and stuff like that, just different things about farming and whatnot. And we've become good friends over especially these last few years. So
That's good. That's awesome. It's another fit. I was going to say, how you're talking about it, it's important to have that relationship, being able to see each other kind of through the same lens, or see what each other's looking at, kind of know what they're thinking with it. But like you said, be able to have that background with each other is super important. So
absolutely.
how do you prepare for judging an event at World Dairy Expo? Is there more prep work that needs to go into it? Is there more reliance on your experience from the past? How do you prep for this show?
Well, that's a good question. We just kind of gotten our back it up. Like, we had to, there's a contract we had to sign, just certain parameters of things we can't do. Like, obviously, I can't show Milking Shorthorns at World Dairy Expo this year, which is a little bit tough, but I understand, because my wife and I, we do like our Shorthorns quite a bit, and we like to exhibit them. But hey, it's a great opportunity, and it's worth it for us to sit out. But yeah, and then so the contracts, and then we had I had to go get fitted for a tux, and they send us a checklist of things we got to get done, and we just kind of keep chipping away at it. So
For sure. So when you started in dairy judging, was judging at Expo an ultimate goal, or did it evolve to a point where you thought this might be possible?
honestly, I didn't really. When I first started judging, I started doing a couple county fairs, and I think I'm just like anyone else. I know it was county fairs, but when you first get started, you're pretty nervous. Like you want to do good. You want people to appreciate your and value your opinions and whatnot. Yeah, I've always thought it'd be cool to judge at Expo, but when I first started judging, I didn't know. I guess I didn't know how far I wanted to go. It was kind of something I wanted to try, and after it's like anything else. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get, and that's just how it is. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Can you talk about maybe some events you've judged in the past and how those past experiences can help you with the World Dairy Expo event?
Yeah, so like I said, I started with some county fairs, and then I used to do a lot of fitting and traveling through the state of Minnesota, and I got the opportunity to judge the state red and white Holstein show probably 4 years ago now. So that was kind of like my first bigger gig, and I was obviously really nervous, and it's just for me, once you get past that first class, like it just you just kind of loosen up and you just kind of go with it. So then so that was one of my first big shows. And then actually the following year, I believe I had to do I judged the state junior Holstein show up there in Minnesota. I've also done the Illinois State Fair. Obviously I got some pretty good ties to Illinois, being some of my past employment opportunities I had. My wife's from Illinois too, so judge the Holsteins there. The last year I had the opportunity to judge the Ayrshires and the Milking Shorthorns at the Wisconsin Summer Show, and that was a big one for me too, because Wisconsin's obviously a very competitive state, and there's lots and lots of good animals and lots of people there, and lots of that I look up to, and yeah. So after that one, I had a couple Wisconsin district shows I judged this year, and then I also did the red and whites at the shows this year. But I would say after doing the Ayrshires and Shorthorns last year, that really built my confidence as far as I'm not saying I don't get nervous going to shows, but I'm just a lot more comfortable because that was like a really big show for me. And, like I said earlier, the more you do, the more comfortable you get, but, smoother things go for you mentally and everything. So
Yeah, exactly. The more repetitions you get at it, you build that up a little bit, and you kind of feel like you're more prepared for the moment. So you're judging the International Milking Shorthorn Show. You just mentioned that you guys can't show now with it because of obviously probably a conflict of interest with that. So can you just talk a little bit about what your experience with Milking Shorthorns has been?
I never grew up with Milking Shorthorns. Never really got involved in them until I met my wife. We've been married since 2016. I guess her family, she grew up with Jerseys, and they had a few Shorthorns that they had purchased from Halpin Farms in Illinois. And anyway, so that was kind of my first taste of them, and we never really had many of them to show, but the quality that they had, that my wife and father-in-law brought, were really nice. That we had some success at especially State Fair, and then a few of them we've taken to World Dairy Expo and done fairly well with. So and then we started kind of buying a few individuals here and there, but I would say what we like to do from our standpoint is we typically every year we find 5 or 6 embryos on a sale out of a cow we really like and try to get them bought, and that's kind of how we've been trying to expand our Shorthorn herd a little bit. Actually, we bought some embryos 2 years ago from Michael Meyer, and one of those heifers ended up, the heifer resulting from those embryos actually went on to be junior champion at World Dairy Expo and last year. So that was a pretty cool success story with our little embryo venture. So
Looking for a way to get more from your herd? Improve MX is a yeast solution designed to support consistent intakes, rumen health, and feed efficiency. It's a proven tool for dairy producers who want consistent performance. Ask your nutritionist about Improve MX today and see the difference it can make with your operation. You can find that article in the second section of the World Dairy Expo Special Edition titled Never Too Late to Start, or online at dairystar.com. Next, we speak with Kathleen O'Keefe. O'Keefe will be the first voice behind ExpoTV's International Holstein Show this year, as World Dairy Expo brings a live, play-by-play broadcast to this year's show. Let's hear from Kathleen now. Kathleen, you guys are adding a new kind of component to Expo TV. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are going to be bringing to the International Holstein Show this year?
Right. Well, I'm really excited. Obviously, Expo has done such a fabulous job over the years working with their video provider and the live stream that comes from the shows. I know a lot of people sit home and watch that, but the one part of the shows that you don't get when you're watching it from home or just on TV is it's hard to access that information. You might have a show catalog and can look up the tag numbers, but you really didn't know anything about it. And over the past few years, especially since COVID, I think that kind of drove it a little bit. There had been shows, most notably up in Canada, that had added a live commentary aspect to their shows. And, everybody who loves dairy cattle shows thought that was a great thing. And I know people have been kind of prodding Expo the last couple of years. Hey, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do this? And Expo's talked about it. But Expo being what it is and the outstanding organization that it is, they wanted to be sure they could deliver that on a very professional and polished basis. And finally, this is the year they set up a committee for Expo TV, and with the eye of always improving that delivery of that live stream. And then now this year adding the commentary for the Holstein Show. And in doing so, I know that the committee and the staff and leadership at Expo has the ambition to have commentary one day for all of the breed shows, but they wanted to start with the Holstein show this year, namely because it's the only breed that holds the ring itself for its show for 2 days. It isn't a split ring situation. And so that makes it logistically easier with the video feed, the audio feed. I was on that committee. I learned a lot about what it takes and the cost and expense of cabling up to a second team for commentary. And I know they are absolutely looking to do commentary down the road for all of the shows. And I think this year, the Holstein show was the guinea pig just for the logistics of it. Was easiest to set up one team, one table, cabling for that, and work with that one show that's in the ring the whole time. And it is frankly the show that gets the most visitors, the most clicks to the feed. And there's a lot of Holstein enthusiasts out there around the world, and it is the show that gets the most viewership on Expo TV.
Definitely, yeah. And say it's a little bit different when you get to see kind of how the sausage is made a little bit when you're seeing all the behind the scenes work in terms of how production is set up, what all got to go into it, the cameras are running
That's
cables.
right. That's right. And I mean, we had such a great committee on people. There were people there from who get the sponsorships. There were people there who were, handle the budget. There was a lot of things. I'm always kind of a real starry-eyed optimist. And I was like, great, let's do it. Let's do all the shows. And so once you start realizing the logistics, and there's an expense to it, and how to make sure your existing sponsors, and there are sponsors of that show that put in a lot of money, the 4-star and 5-star sponsors you wanted to make sure you were fair to them and how it works with still their advertising and their commercial time and everything. So there was a lot that, I'll be honest, I hadn't thought of. I've been a dairy show announcer at Expo for over 20 years. I've done the Red and White show and the Junior Holstein show for many, many years. And so I knew the behind the scenes part of like the logistics of delivering data and what a great job they do on the floor, getting that information up to the announcer's booth. And so for me, this was a little bit different moving over to the commentary table, but I'm really tickled to be one of the people that's holding down that table for the 2 days of the Holstein show. And I guess if you compare it to some football or sports play, but I'll be like the play-by-play person, which I kind of deliver the facts and figures going in. We're going to have a second person at the table who's going to be more of a color man, if what you want to say, like also delivering some thoughts. These are going to be people that are very relevant in the business. And in fact, we've got about 4 or 5 different guys sitting in that chair over the 2 days, namely because I think all of them have animals exhibiting or have a stake in the show, or they're there to do some business at the show and everything. So I didn't want to ask anyone to give up a full day or a full portion of the time when they're either watching something of theirs exhibit or doing some business or making some deals. So these are all people that are going to be really relevant. And then we're going to have a third chair, and we're going to bring probably a new voice in every class or so. So we're going to bring in a couple international guests. We're going to bring in some people that maybe didn't want to or weren't maybe comfortable sitting for such a long period of time and expressing, but they're really happy to come in and talk with us for a class or two. So we're going to try to really get some different perspectives and some people that know the cattle from Canada, know the cattle from the US and the Eastern region, Midwest, all around the country. So we're hoping it's going to be a really, really value added to those people that subscribe to Expo TV for the week, and really deliver a product that I hope makes the show more interesting, more informative, and really, really more of a pleasure to watch.
For sure, definitely. You kind of touched on it. It's very, very similar, if not the exact same thing as like a sporting event when you have your play-by-play guy and your color analyst, and then maybe a sideline reporter. I don't know if you guys are getting sideline reporters yet this year, but maybe down the road we can look into that. But when you go into this, if someone's going into this without any prior knowledge, what cow or maybe cow family should they be looking at, expecting to see something from, or like what are you most excited about to be on the call for this year?
Well, I'm always, you're always, and I will say, I grew up on a registered Holstein farm. We did show. I grew up in central Wisconsin and Clark County, more cows than people, already Clark County, and so the Holstein breed is my native breed, and it is the breed that I really, really love. I work now for Cosmopolitan Dairy Magazine, and we're a trade journal for purebred dairy enthusiasts, and our core audience really is that show crowd. But we cover all the breeds, and I have grown to love all the breeds. But I'll be honest, still number one in my heart is the black and white cow, and so I'm really excited about that. And I guess, this year, you always are really excited to see those one name cows come back. Now this year, we're kind of seeing a bit of a changing of the guard. Shakira's not going to be cows that have been champions the last few years, maybe are not returning. So we're going to see maybe some new faces. We'll see some return winners for sure. I always love to see, what some of the powerhouse show strings bring out, the Butler Views, the Milk Sources, the Ducat Holsteins, the operations like that really bring those cows that are ready on game day and are ready to roll and see what happens. It's always interesting from year to year when you follow it closely, like I do, to see a cow who's maybe third last year. Is she going to make the move to first? Is that judge this year going to do what the judge last year is going to see cattle kind of the same way. It's interesting this year. Our judge, Aaron Eaton, was the associate judge last year. So it'll be interesting if there is a bit of a overlap or layover, or if Aaron's going to come in and he's going to have a fresh perspective on a lot of cattle. There's no one in the business that has probably seen more good cattle than Aaron. So it's going to be a really intriguing job to watch. It's his first time judging the Holstein Show here at Madison, and so that's always exciting. And so there's always a lot of elements to it, and there's the sheer element of good luck during World Dairy Expo week, of cattle staying healthy, of traveling well, of adapting, of are there going to be weather changes, are they going to get the bagging schedule right? Like, you're dealing with really the prime caretakers, the best fitters, the best show preparers in the world at this show, and they don't miss very often. But it's a nerve-wracking few days out in the barn as those men and women out in the barn are getting those cattle ready and trying to assess, how are they feeling? Are they improving? Are they feeling a little worse? And really trying to nail it in that regard. Takes a lot of luck on top of a lot of ability and on top of great cattle. So that's a long answer to your question, but I think sometimes you never know what you're excited about until you see those cows enter the ring, and enter and start on the colored shavings. So
Definitely. And like you said, you got a kind of a whole list of who's going to be in there, and you kind of prepare yourself a little bit. What does that preparation look like for you in terms of I'd say you probably got like binders or sheets. Like, what does that look like for you?
Right. Well, that's it. The Now I love it. I'm a nerd. I was always a bit of a nerd in school, and I'm a nerd with dairy cattle, and especially Holsteins. So this is I say this is my dream assignment. And just like you see those sideline reporters or those guys up at the, when they break to the booth during a football game and they've got their laptops and maybe some binders. We got the entries from World Dairy Expo. You're looking, and there's about 600 entries already in the Holstein Show. Some of those won't show up. Some of those are maybe are entries from the World Classic sale. So there's a few that maybe won't exhibit, but on the whole, you have to prepare that 400 to 500 head of cattle is going to show up in the ring. And I would say, because of what I do with Cosmopolitan and cover a lot of shows from the spring on, some of the first round or second round draft choices, I guess you kind of know already. Like, you kind of know who maybe the favorites are in each of the classes. You can be really prepared. But we have done our research, or in the process of doing our research on all the cattle that are going to be there. So everyone that enters in the ring is going to be introduced, the exhibitor, the animal name, and, we're going to know a little bit something about those cattle and try to give every exhibitor that walks into the ring of the Holstein Show just that little touch of the spotlight. It's pretty daunting when you go to World Dairy Expo as an exhibitor and you know that the vast majority of cattle leave the ring without a medallion, without any kind of ribbon at all. And so you don't often get your time in the spotlight sometimes. And so we're going to try to do that for each of our Holstein exhibitors during the show. So yeah, there's a lot of prep. I'm kind of old school. I have binders and papers, but I also got spreadsheets. So hopefully we'll have it all covered one way or the other. So
right. Say sometimes you just got to blend that new age and old school with
that's right.
Blend it all together and kind of see what you can come up with on the other side. So if someone's tuning into this show for the first time, I've never seen a cattle show before, what do you hope the commentary can kind of teach them about maybe the process, what they're looking at on the screen, kind of everything all encompassing? What do you hope that would be one takeaway?
I hope that we can point out, first of all, some of the conformation traits of the cattle that we think are exceptional. Now, you are coming into, and you will continue the football metaphor here, you're coming into the Super Bowl of dairy shows. And so it's going to be kind of easy, much like the Super Bowl. You've got those two best teams, and they are exceptional offense and defense and special teams, or they wouldn't be there. Same thing here. These cows are going to have exceptional mammary systems. They're going to be beautiful frame cattle. They're going to walk really well. But when you get it down and you're breaking down, you start talking about exactly what what that judge is looking for, the really small differences that can make the difference between standing first and maybe standing fourth. And then, of course, as they come to the ring, we're going to introduce them. We hope to let people know if they've got any kind of like show resume from earlier in the year, if they want to show in Wisconsin, or if they were a junior champion at a show out in New York. And then hopefully a little bit about the exhibitor as well. And so if you have somebody that was a total rookie watching it, hopefully at the end of the day, they have some kind of appreciation for what that judge is looking for in his breakdown and assessing the cattle, and truly the quality of the show and the immense effort and, like I said, degree of luck and just the immense amount of preparation that has to be done with these cattle. It's not just you haul them in and off the trailer that week of Expo. Like, these cattle are getting top care right now. We can't wait to celebrate them and their efforts.
Looking for a way to get more from your herd? Improve MX is a yeast solution designed to support consistent intakes, rumen health, and feed efficiency. It's a proven tool for dairy producers who want consistent performance. Ask your nutritionist about Improve MX today and see the difference it can make with your operation. You can read all about World Dairy Expo's decision to add commentary and Kathleen's role in the process this Friday in the Expo Daily Edition, which can be picked up on the grounds at World Dairy Expo or online at dairystar.com. And we finish out today's episode with Wisconsin State FFA President Amalia Draxler. Amalia and I had the chance to talk about how she became the state president and all the activities and seminars available to FFA members today, Tuesday, at World Dairy Expo. So for those who might not be as plugged into the FFA world, could you give us a little bit of background of what your involvement in the dairy industry has been?
Definitely. I've been involved in the dairy industry basically since I was born. I was born into the 6th generation on my family's dairy farm. We milk 700 cows in Glenwood City, and it's been a really great learning experience for me to grow up on a farm. I've been able to develop some of the really important skills in leadership and in career success. Including being able to work hard, respect other people's time and values, and then just also really important career skills in specific to the dairy industry. And in FFA, those are things that we really, really value. FFA is built on the potential for premier leadership, personal growth, and career success. So not only have I been able to have a background in the dairy industry, but through FFA, we're able to support so many students who do as well. And as well as other backgrounds in all types of agriculture. And then we also have a lot of students without agricultural backgrounds who are able to have career success as well.
For sure. And that's one of the best things about FFA, right? Is you get a kind of whole range of agricultural backgrounds, and then those who just want leadership skills, like that's what FFA can help teach. So what was the process like to become the Wisconsin FFA president, and why did you want to pursue that?
My journey as a state FFA officer began when I was a senior in high school. I really decided then, after seeing other state officers at leadership conferences, that might be something I want to do someday. State officers were always a role model for me growing up because they're just so positive and they're great leaders, so well-spoken and confident. And I think that those are skills that a lot of young people always want to have. We always want to continue growing and being amazing. And so when I was a senior, I saw them at a conference and I said, I'm going to try to pursue that. So from there, I decided to look into the role of state office more and determine what that might look like for me. I got in touch with some past state officers who helps me research that. This year, I'm going on to my 9th year as an FFA member, so a lot of my involvement in FFA definitely helps me build leadership up to this point. And at the 2024 state convention, I was a state officer candidate. To run as a state officer candidate, you must complete a series of interviews. So that includes a personal interview, a group interview, a facilitation process, a impromptu stakeholder engagement, a stand and deliver, and then we also had to write thank you letters and do social media posts. So it took a lot of preparing for those components. And then I was elected for my first year as a state officer, serving as the 2024-2025 vice president. And that was very exciting. I got to meet so many members. I facilitated over 200 leadership workshops. We traveled over 30,000 miles in that year, which was a lot. It took a lot of effort, but I loved every moment of it. And at the end of my year, I had the option to choose to run again as a state officer because every year the state president is taken from the previous team. And so I decided that because my first year as a state officer was so great and I met so many amazing members, I decided that I would run again to be the state president. And from there, our team had a team vote on who would be best ready to serve in that position. And I was lucky enough to be voted in. And ever since then, I've been serving as the state president.
That's awesome. Now, shifting gears a little bit back to Expo. What has been your experience with World Dairy Expo in the past?
I've been able to attend World Dairy Expo a few times. It was always a highlight for me in my home FFA chapter. Being from Northwest Wisconsin, it's about a 4-hour drive, so we'd leave at 5 a.m. and we'd get to go on the bus together. I remember I first went when I was a freshman in high school, and this was a really eye-opening experience for me because being from a dairy background, I was always invested in the industry, but I had never seen some of the higher level things that go on in the dairy industry and also all of the people that are intertwined in it. So I really, really enjoyed being able to talk to all of the businesses and seeing people and seeing all of the potential that I had for career development. Even as only a freshman in high school, I could see myself pursuing this and going back to World Dairy Expo many different times. I also liked seeing other FFA members and getting to build a community there. And so after that, I continued to return back to the World Dairy Expo. I never showed at World Dairy Expo and I was never an exhibitor there, but I still really enjoy going to World Dairy Expo. And out of college, it was one of my favorite events as well because I could really see myself just taking that deeper level and getting to network with industry professionals. So getting to return back to World Dairy Expo last year as a state officer was so great because we got to, for the first time, look at what that looks like when we're preparing for other members. So I got to help other members have the same great experience that I did. We facilitated a leadership workshop last year. I got to speak on an opportunities panel, and I got to see just all the inner workings of what makes World Dairy Expo so great.
What can visitors expect if they're coming down on Tuesday, to Expo?
Visitors can expect so much from the FFA world if they're coming to Expo on Tuesday. It's so exciting to see so many of America's and Wisconsin's youth all gather in one place. And FFA members have many different opportunities to both work with each other and our state FFA officers, and then also the dairy industry as a whole. So from the state FFA, we will be providing a leadership workshop that all members are free to attend if they would like to. We will be talking about why leadership is so important, specifically in the dairy industry. And then from there, they also have the opportunity to hear a panel about rural college students. So if they're interested in attending college someday, they might want to learn more about that from people who've been to college, such as myself. From there, the FFA also hosts contests such as the dairy judging contest and the dairy products judging contest, where students get to work directly with things tied to the dairy industry, such as our cattle and our products, and see if they can identify what really great products look like. And then from there, FFA members also get the opportunity to, again, just visit the expo hall, see all of the great businesses that we have, and just really get to stay in touch and stay knowledgeable about all things in the agriculture industry.
Yeah, for sure. And so I was looking up the schedule beforehand and saw you're on a couple different seminar panels and stuff. So it seems like you're going to have a pretty busy day along with, your other duties as president. So it'll be super cool for, say, kids who are interested to be able to go ask questions and learn more about all the different things that you guys are teaching there. So when you're at Expo, everybody's hopefully going to be wearing official dress, right? With that, everybody's chapter and state are on the back of their shirt or jacket, right? How cool is that to be able to identify people kind of right away and be able to meet people from all over the country, maybe all over the world too? Like, how awesome is that experience at Expo?
Being able to meet other people and see their pride for their home chapters and communities is so amazing. One thing that's always great to see is the sea of blue jackets. FFA members are identifiable from almost anywhere, in that we really wear that jacket with pride and being able to stand out. And looking at our FFA jacket, we have our emblem on there, and our emblem represents a couple different things. Like the foundation of our FFA emblem is corn, which represents foundation and unity. And I think that as FFA members, we continue to embody that as well. Not only do we believe in all the values that FFA instills in us, but we also believe in community, and being able to see that at World Dairy Expo firsthand, we get to see that our students are really continuing to chase success and chasing knowledge and also community. And so one of my favorite parts is always getting to know names of new people that we might even see later in the year, getting to know the things that they're excited about and getting to know the reason why they want to come to World Dairy Expo.
For sure. And getting to know those different people. Maybe you might run, say, helping with your dairy farm up in Glenwood City area. You might meet somebody who's running a dairy farm maybe down in Georgia or something. Like, How cool is that to be able to maybe talk about those differences, even though it's the same industry, but because you're located in different geographic regions, there's so much more differences that go on with it.
One FFA member that I got to meet last year that was from a different region was after my college opportunities panel that I spoke on. Somebody approached me and they said, "Oh, you're going to the University of Wisconsin-Madison." And I said, "Yeah, I'm a student there." And she said, "I'm really considering that someday, but I don't know." She said it's a little further away from home since she was from Illinois, which is out of state. She said she wasn't super familiar with the industry, but she was really considering it and she didn't know what that would look like in the future. And I said, "Well, FFA members, we're all friends." I was like, "Here, take my business card." And I said, "Feel free to contact me whenever." And I said, "If you have any questions, I would love to answer any of that." And it got to be many months and I never heard back. And that's okay because we share contact information all the time, not necessarily expecting that. But then when school started in September, I actually got a text message from her saying that she decided that because of our conversation, she really did want to go to Madison. And now she's a student there. So she's been able to get involved in all of our opportunities on campus. And we've been able to foster that connection from each other just because of our meeting one time at World Dairy Expo. And then another great example was last year, we had some government officials from a different country visit World Dairy Expo. And some of my state officer team got to connect with them and got to speak about what agriculture education looks like in our state and in our country, and got to compare and contrast that of other countries. And that was a really great meeting point because we're able to share differences and perspectives on this. And together that makes us so much stronger in agricultural education and in the ag industry.
And that's a super unique opportunity. Like I would say, not knowing where they're from, but being able to talk to somebody from South America about how they're handling their dairy industry compared to how you're doing it here, dairy education. Like that's super awesome to be able to talk to people about different ways they're teaching it and stuff. So now, last question. If there's someone heading to Expo for the first time, you've been there a couple times, you've got to know the ropes a little bit. If someone's going there for the first time, what would you recommend they hit while they're there?
I have got to say that if someone is going to Expo for the first time, you have got to get the malts and the grilled cheese. They're so delicious, and this stand is run by college students from Madison. And being a college student myself, I definitely have to plug that. So that is always a fan favorite. But then also being able to catch the dairy show is just so great. I mean, that's kind of staple there, but being able to see how much time and effort these people put into their cattle is always so rewarding, even if you don't know the most about cattle. And being able to see what that high quality cattle looks like is a really great learning experience for everyone.
Definitely. No, that's one of the things I got to see when I was down there last year. And it was just really eye-opening to see how much, like you said, hard work and dedication these people have to raising the best cow they can, and all the genetics in the background that go into it. It's just really cool. Amalia, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we can see you around.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We'd like to thank today's sponsor, Wilbur Ellis. Looking for a way to get more from your herd? Talk to your nutritionist about Improve MX, because when your cows thrive, your dairy does too. We hope you enjoyed this first episode of our Dairy Delivery World Dairy Expo Special Edition. A reminder that we'll be having 2 more World Dairy Expo podcasts coming out over the next week. You'll have the chance to hear from Michelle this Friday, as she'll bring you interviews from some of the shows that have been happening throughout the week, plus a special guest. Then we hear some of the big takeaways from this year's event on next week, Monday, October 6th, as Michelle and I will both share highlights for the 3rd and final episode of this special 3-part series. To find more World Dairy Expo content, visit dairystar.com, and under the e-edition, find the Special Sections tab, and see all the stories from our World Dairy Expo special editions of the paper, or visit worlddairyexpo.com. Find more stories of farmers in the latest Dairy Star newspaper. Then come back to the Dairy Delivery on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts to hear more of those stories. Rate and subscribe, and if you or someone you know is interested in being featured in the Dairy Star or on Dairy Delivery, please reach out to us at dairydelivery@dairystar.com so we can continue sharing all dairy all the time.